Alright, so I'm gonna re-record this video again because I totally got one of the units wrong. So yeah, today I'll be talking about Hell Demons. In Red Hell Demon, in specific for this video, I'll make videos for Grey and Crimson after this. So yeah, stay tuned. Right off the bat, I'm gonna start off with Red Demons because it's the first demon that got introduced into the game. So I'm just gonna go in the release order. I'll be talking about primarily like just the global units first, and no, I'll just go by the list, okay? So I'll talk about global and JP units. First of all, Blue Alpha, he has a card that deals more damage. According, it deals more damage depending on how many out gauges the opponent has. So if the Red Demon has a lot of out gauges, that card deals a lot of damage, and that's pretty much it for Blue Alpha. Oh, his out also makes it so that it decreases HP related stats if I'm not wrong. So his out is actually pretty decent for this, and it's a single target out, so it hits pretty hard. Blue Alpha, the SSR version, the one that we are having right now as a banner, he's actually one of the best blue units for a Red Hell Demon because his attack card removes stances, I believe. Yup. It removes stances at rank 3, but his attack card, it's decent, but it's not the best thing in his kit. His passive makes it so that he increases crit damage by 10% for each orb in the hero's ultimate move gauge, which means that it stacks up to like 5, right? Because obviously you can only have 5 out gauges maximum, and then he increases it by additional 50%, so he gets like 100% additional crit damage boost from his passive if he has 5 out gauges, which means that he's gonna be critting really hard. His discard is alright. He disables attack skills, which is okay, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it saves some animation time because the Red Demon, you can attack disable a Red Demon, so attacks you the Red Demon, so this can save some time in terms of animations. And his out increases crit chance by 2 times, and it's the same out as the Red Alpha, so you know how it works. So when it crits, it's a 2 times amount of chance of critting, so it crits pretty often. And because of that, or because of his passive, his out is gonna crit really hard, so he's one of the best units for Red Demon. I'm speaking a little bit faster because I do not want the video to be too long like my previous video. Blue Bun, this non-nunchuck variant, is who I actually decided to build up for the Red Demon. He deals a pretty decent amount of damage. His first card inflicts charge, and his second card reduces attack related stats, which is somewhat important because if you are like trying to speed run the Red Demon and you're going for like the fastest clear times, because if you don't know what Red Demons, Hell Demons give, they give cosmetic upgrades, which obviously upgrades your cosmetics to give them higher amount of stats. So what you want to do is to like make your runs as efficient as possible, as time efficient as possible. So you want to make them as short as possible, so you want to have it like end really fast. So he deals a decent amount of damage, and he reduces attack related stats. His out is a single target, so he hits pretty hard, removes 3 out gauges if I'm not wrong. And uh the attack lower is good because if you're going for the most efficient run, you wouldn't want to bring Blue King. The reason behind not bringing Blue King is because his out is an AoE out, so his out is not gonna hit the hardest into Red Demon. And he has a cleanse card, which is alright if you are dying, but the cleanse card, the heal cleanse card itself doesn't do any damage by itself. The only damage comes from the petrify or attack card, but the problem is that that card by itself doesn't do the most damage as well, so it wouldn't be the most time efficient run. This nunchuck bun, this blue nunchuck bun, I would say he's slightly better than the regular blue bun that doesn't have nunchucks. His first card, he cancels stances at rank 2 and rank 3, which is good because the Red Demon puts up stances which makes him like harder to kill. His passive makes it so that he decreases defenses of all enemies by 50%, which makes him hit slightly harder as well. And this one, he decreases attack related stats by 20%, or defense related stats by 20%, so he actually increases his damage even further, and for his out it's an extort, so decreases defense as well. This is more of a premium unit than the previous bun, so this blue nunchuck bun is rarer than the previous one, so more people are gonna be able to build out the previous blue bun than this bun. But if you have this bun, you can build him out. I feel like he's slightly better than the previous bun, but they are about the same, so you can't really go wrong with either. So yeah, next up, give me a sec. Let's go back to blue units. This blue DN is a very budget option because you get her on story mode. Her passive makes it so that she, like, her damage increases after each turn, but after, even at max passive she doesn't hit the hardest. It's decent, she's alright for it, but not too crazy. After that we have Eastin, Blue Eastin. Okay, so Blue Eastin, she's really good for this. She hasn't came out on global yet, but she's probably dropping next week or the week after. So she's a really good option for Red Demon, but she's not mandatory. But she's still really good because she has the same. She has a card that buffs, and that card is the exact same one as Green Hellbrum, which people build up for Guild Boss when he first dropped. It's the same exact buff card, and you should know by now how good that buff card is. And overall as a unit, she's actually pretty decent. Like, she's not just a buffing unit, unlike Green Hellbrum. She's actually usable in other places. She's not that usable in JP PvP right now because there are much better units, but she's alright. She's not gonna be meta, but she's alright. So she's like pretty versatile. She can be a buffer, and she deals decent amount of damage. So yeah, she's a good unit build up. Next up we have Goddess Elizabeth. She's not out yet in global, but she puts up a shield which makes it so that your characters do not die as quick, and her attack card turns into a stun at level 2 at level 3, and at level 2 it stuns for 1 turn, level 3 stuns for 2 turns. And at level 2 and 3 she removes stances, which once again, because you're not gonna be using Blue King ideally, uh, you the Red Demon would probably put up his stance, which means that Elizabeth can just remove it at rank 2 onwards. And if your characters, like, if one of your characters dies, like, for whatever reason, she actually has a revive. Just in case you guys do not know what she does. Blue Alley Hawk is really decent for this as well, because Red Demon applies uh ignite effects, ignite debuffs on you. And Blue Elizabeth has an Amplify card as her attack card, which means that for each buff she receives, her attack card just gets increased by like 30% damage or something. Like an additional 30%, not like 30% of his actual damage, if you get what I mean. So yeah, every time the Red Demon ignites you, you can just use Solidify and turn it into a resistance buff, which buffs her Amplify damage, which in turn makes her attack card hit harder the more debuff she has on her. And then on top of that, her ult is a single target ult, and you guys should know by now how hard her ult hits. It's not the hardest, but it's decent. Next up, an SR unit, SR Aaron. If you guys have been playing during the Attack on Titan collab, you guys should have this Aaron at 6/6 because they gave 6 copies for free. So yeah, if you have him at 6/6, definitely use him. I mean, I mean, like, it depends on your roster, but I would say he's a really good option because his first card has the same multiplier as Escanor, Green Escanor, but obviously since it's an SR unit, he doesn't have the same amount of stats, which means that his attack card doesn't hit as hard as Green Escanor, but he still hits decently hard on that. His second card is a buff card, which is the exact same one as Derriere. He gains evade at rank 2 and rank 3, and he's like the stat buff by itself is just like basic stats like attack, defense, and HP. So it's the same as Derriere, it's the completely same card. As for his ult, it scales up to 945%, multiplier at 6/6. But I'm just gonna say that it's 945% because everyone should have him at 6/6 at this point. Alright? Which means that he's gonna be he'll be dishing out a 945% multiplier ultimate. And plus he ignores resistance, which the red demon has a lot of, which means that his out will hit ridiculously hard. Next up we have Blue Gallon. Blue Gallon, if you build him up for PvP when he was actually like decent at PvP, like when he first dropped like months ago, if you build him up, you still can use him. He's a pretty decent unit because he's self-sustainable, since you can just out and get your buffs out, and then he has an amplify card, same as a lizard buff. So yeah, he's self-sustainable. So you can use him if you want. He's a decent option, but it's not top tier. Gorgias, his attack cards do not do anything. He's just there as a 4th slot unit for his passive. So yeah. Who else? Let's see. Blue Jericho, same thing as Gorgias. You don't use her in the front. If you use her, you use her in the back at the 4th slot for increased damage to make your runs go a bit faster. But the best unit for Red Demon, Hell, is gonna be Jenna. If you don't know what she does, she basically, she has Infect, which restricts recovery related stats, so the Red Demon cannot really like lifesteal. On top of that, she cancels stances even at rank 1. So even at rank 1 she can remove stances, unlike most of the other characters that only acquire this ability at rank 2 and rank 3. And then her out makes it so that she inflicts break damage. This is not a very common like effect, but what it does is that it deals 2 times damage against stanced enemies, and Red Demon throws up stances on phase 2 and phase 3 only, I believe, but once he throws it up, you can just use this and deal double damage. At rank 1, it's 560% multiplier already, and then you do it times 2, then it's just like 1120 percent multiplier, and that's a rank 1 ultimate. And the main reason why you want to use her is because of the cosmetic upgrades. She actually makes it so that you can get more cosmetic drops when you complete a Hell Demon raid, like a Hell Raid Demon raid. So yeah, that's why she's the best unit for this. But she comes on a banner, so you have to summon for her if you want to use her. Where is she? Okay, yeah. Blue King, once again, doesn't do the most damage, slows down the raid for you. Blue Lilia is alright, but nothing crazy. She's like alright, because she like increases the pierce rate of her team, but the characters that you use, like the main DPS that you use, do not really scale off pierce rate anyway, so it's not the best, but she's okay. Okay at best, yeah, I would say. Ludo Xiao, I don't think he's bad. Okay, first of all, he's a recently released JP unit, so he's not gonna be coming for quite a while. But I am not sure how good he is in raids, in Hell Raid Demon, but I would assume that he's decent. Marmas, you can use him in the 4th slot because of his passive if your team is slightly weaker and that your team is like dying or something, you can use him lah, but he won't really increase your DPS unless you use him in the front and you use his defense related stats lower, then that will like increase the speed of your run, so it's a potential option as well. This SR Meliodas is actually decent because if you pair him up with the blue bun, like the non-unsharp variant, he has an attack related stats lower, which means that it is a debuff for blue Meliodas to get his weak point attack cut off. And then I'm gonna go on to Mikasa for the last for the last unit because I wanna talk about her more. Blue Slater is alright, but his passive makes it so that he only crits when the opponent he only gets like his guaranteed crits when the opponent has 0 out gauges, so he's gonna be really good for phase 1, but phase 2, phase 3, the Red Demon will start getting out gauges, which means that his crits wouldn't be consistent. And he just barely crits in Red Demon after phase 1. Like when the Red Demon has out gauges. And Blue Zeldris, I've tried him out on my JP account. He doesn't crit, so, and his damage comes from his crit, so he's not that good. So yeah, I'm gonna go on to Mikasa right now, and why I think that she has a lot of potential. You guys have to stop sleeping on Mikasa, like seriously. Like, she's so underrated. It actually pains me. Alright, so Mikasa. As you guys know, Mikasa is from Attack on Titan, so it came from a collab, so it's like a collab unit. And normally collab units aren't that good, but Mikasa is an exception. I'm just really tilted that they made her costumes paywall, so I couldn't actually buy her cosmetics when the Attack on Titan collab came. Like, if you guys weren't playing during that point, they made it so that like you had to buy like sets of costumes for money, and you couldn't buy the costumes, like the cosmetics for diamonds at all. There wasn't even that option, so I couldn't get her cosmetics, which I'm pretty salty about. But that putting that aside, I'm gonna tell you guys why she might potentially be really good for Red Demon. That comes from a passive. If you look at her base stats, it's nothing impressive. Like 520 attack is alright. 25% crit chance is alright. 125% crit damage is not that high, and 15% pierce rate is like not great. But this is where she becomes good. It's her passive. Increases all stats of the hero by 3% for each ally that takes damage. Limit 10 times, which means that it stacks up to 30%. And the thing is that this isn't, notice how this isn't 3% stacks up to 10 times for basic stats. It's not just attack, HP, and defense. This 3% that stacks out 10 times 30%, it is it affects attack, defense, HP, all of these stats. So in terms of like offensive stats, that's 30% for attack, 30% for pierce rate, 30% for crit chance, 30% for crit damage. And then you can get 30% life steal, 30% more recovery rate as well, so she becomes like very self-sustainable after a passive builds up. But these stats are obviously like just her base stats, like pre-costumes and like, yeah, all those stuff. Pre like super awakening, whatever you wanna call, whatever you wanna see that as. So yeah, you do not. I feel like you can just put her like out of 4 units, you put like a back 4th slot unit, and then you just put her in the front. And then since her stats like initially aren't that great, you can just leave her to the side. And since uh Red Demon, like if you're not using Blue King, right, the Red Demon will just constantly attack your team and your allies team, which means that passive her passive just passively builds up. So what that means is that you can just leave her there, and her passive will just keep building up gradually as the phase goes one by one. And then you can just keep like moving, combining your cards, and get her out gauges. Get her out gauges up to 5, and then once the 3rd phase hits, you should have her passive stacked up to maximum, which is like 30% for each stat. And then once 3rd phase comes, you get your out off, you get your bleed cut off, you put in work. Like, she just absolutely destroys the Red Demon. She deals an insane amount of damage. Her initial hit should do like a lot of damage already, and plus the bleed makes it so that you take unbelievably hard. So do not sleep on Mikasa. She has potential. She has a lot of potential. You can just leave her there. You do not really want to attack her with her on phase 1 and phase 2, because again, without her passive she doesn't hit the hardest, but once it builds up she hits ridiculously hard. So as for team compositions, the best of all, you would like to have a Jenna on the 4th slot or something, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna summon for her. But if I do, I'm gonna definitely use her on the team. Like, if you have her, definitely use her. Aside from that, for the front units, I would say, for me personally, I'm gonna for the units that I've said previously, like the units that I've mentioned, they are all like pretty much viable. It depends on what kind of roster you have and how much resources you have, and then you can just build accordingly. But as for my team, I have level 80 Blue Bun, like the non-nunchuck variation. I have Blue SR Aaron, and I have level 80 Mikasa in the front. And then for now I have blue Jericho, blue SR Jericho at the back. So that's my team currently. You guys see what works for you, but the good units are right there for you that I've stated all the good units already. So just try it for yourself, see what works for you, but those are the units that you can use. So yeah, I've already told you what units I'll be using, and if you have Jenna, just please use her. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Probably the next one is probably gonna be Grey Demon because I'm making one guide for each demon out there. Yeah, so yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one.